a tiny dragon.
Everything is fine.
That's as crazy as I get, guys.
Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Reading Queens podcast. We are here to talk about books and sequels. Just diving right in, apparently, with the introduction. I'm excited to talk about this. Obviously, books. I'm excited to talk about books all the time, but I'm here. I'm Valia. Hello. And I have two ladies joining us, so please say hi.
I'm Hanna. Hi.
Hello, I'm Kay.
Yes, and we're going to have a blast. Are you guys ready for all the fun discussion and life updates? I am. I am also very tired and in a very weird mood, if you couldn't tell. So it's gonna be great. It's gonna be lovely, lovely. Hanna, how is life?
Hello. Life is pretty good. It's like winter is just like kind of dragging on here, as I believe it is in a lot of North America, where usually it's spring by now, but instead it's like slush and mud. So my kids are home for spring break, but they don't want to go outside because it's literally pouring rain on top of snow right now. So, but we got a new stove this morning, which was like all I did all morning, right? Because you pull a stove out and like it's terrible, right? It wasn't actually as bad as I thought, but it was awful. So I had to like clean that out and put it in. But it means we have a giant box. And my children, they are 13, 11, and 6. And my 11-year-old came up and was like, we figured out we could all fit comfortably in the box with room to spare. And I'm like, comfortably? Like, how comfortably? So they were doing that while we have our weekly author meeting. And I haven't gone downstairs yet to see what has happened to this box, but I think it should keep them occupied for at least like 3-4 days of spring break. So
love it.
That's good. I just been doing a lot of art. I haven't been doing a lot of writing because my brain doesn't want to write, but it does want to draw. So that's something. And I'm illustrating a scene for my upcoming Snow White book that is all like mushrooms and crystals, and it's super fun. So my Dwarven Kingdom is all mushrooms and crystals because why not? I was like, if it's going to be underground, it should be awesome and cute.
Correct. Yes.
And cute little salamander creatures. So it's all good.
I love that. I get so excited when you illustrate your books because we get to see previews. And it's always really, really fun to be like, oh my gosh, like this is a scene. And then you read the book and you're like, this is the scene.
I saw this. It's my first time drawing Killian, my love interest, as not like a chibi.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always like, you gotta be like, how swoony can you make the boys look? That is the goal. And it's going well. So it's good.
Good to know. Good to know.
It's funny.
I love it. I love it. Okay, Kay, how you doing?
Well, I'm pretty good now. As Valia and Hanna already know, I was very sick last week. It was very stupid. I am not good at being sick, okay?
Stupid.
I am
like, how dare you be sick? So dumb.
Okay, so do you guys, if anybody out there, if you've seen Parks and Rec, there's this one guy, Chris Traeger, who he gets sick, and it's like so funny when he's sick because he's usually really fit and put together, and he like completely melts down. And yes, that is me, okay? I'm usually perfectly sane and rational and can handle like most things, but then when I'm sick, I'm like, I don't want to be sick anymore. Just stop it. I can't handle it. So, and to be fair, usually when I'm sick, I can still like do stuff. And I was like in bed, okay, and could not do anything. I sent out my newsletter on Wednesday, and literally I was like, okay, I have to send out my newsletter. And I like get up, write it in 20 minutes, send it. And I'm just like, hopefully that was good because it's all I got. And I like go lay back in bed. And that's all.
I'm going to go back and find that newsletter and see how coherent it is. I feel like it looked fine when I read it, but now I'm curious.
I know. That's good. Anyone who read that newsletter, you're probably like, wow, didn't realize it was that That's as crazy as I get, guys. So read it over and be like excited about it. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that.
I seem to remember you keeping it short, so
It was
probably
very short, so
did not
that
have
makes
time
sense.
for a lot of loopiness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That was one of my goals. Just here you go. Here's the information, and we're done. So yeah,
Back to bed.
That's how I've been. Although I am doing better now, finally, after my 4 days of being in bed, and then it actually took like a while to recover too. So I'm just not good at being sick, and I would prefer to never get sick. So, my
If
body
we can make
just
that
listen to
happen.
that. Exactly. Done.
Just put a request in for that.
Every time my youngest is sick, she's always like, I just wish that sick wasn't a thing. And I'm like, so do we all. Wish sick wasn't a thing.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you, to your body for
And
getting
doing
better.
Yes.
We're supportive of this. I also been drawing all day today. As the ladies know, I showed them my stuff. Working on something that I'm not sharing yet, but I am perfecting my line drawings. So I'm excited. And it's been raining here all day, which is like my most creative time. And I'm like, should be writing. Am I? Nope. Creatively different place today, which is fine. It's all good.
Sometimes your brain just like wants to do the other thing. And I just think if I can channel it all towards the same project, then it's as good as it's gonna get, right? Like my brain wants to go all over the place. So I'm like, we're focusing on this book, write, draw, market, do something. That's got to be for this book. So
I mean,
it works for me.
Exactly. That's cool. I did also start. This is great. I also started Anne with an E on Netflix, like 3 years after everybody else. But I'm excited because I'm finally like watching new to me shows because I've been literally on NCIS rewatch for like months because I was writing and that's all I can do is do rewatch shows when I'm writing. So
and you could watch NCIS for like a couple of years probably.
Yeah, without
like daily.
without going through all of them. Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I'm on season 7.
Well, you're burning through pretty good.
Like, wow, okay. I'm like really racing through this. They just introduced NCIS LA. That was like their pilot episode that, as part of
right.
And I was like,
Chris O'Donnell pops in.
Yeah. But I'm like, that happened in season 7 or at the end of season 6. Like, that's weird. But yeah, they haven't been around.
Why is it weird?
Because I thought it was earlier.
Later?
Yeah, I thought it was earlier because the LA has been around for so long. It's all the other ones that are spin-off that haven't been around for as long. But even the Hawaii one is like on season 3, I think, already. And I'm like, what? Anyway, it was just boggling my mind the other day. It's fine.
The sheer quantity of NCIS is like a lot.
I am set for forever. Yeah. I love it though. I love it. So I'm excited to like be watching new to me shows, but also reading books. And we're going to talk about books that have we read recently, not recently, who knows, okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. No, but we're talking about books and sequels today, which is basically series where we liked the second or third or fourth book better than the first, which especially when it comes to second books, I feel like we all have that second book syndrome where the second book is just not as good as the first in a lot of cases, not always, but I feel like that is something that people say. So I'm just like interested to hear what books, because Kay, for example, would not tell us which series she's talking about.
She's keeping some mystery alive here.
So we're about to find out together. But Hannah's going to go first because...
I'm going to go first.
Oh, after that setup, now you all have to wait.
Yep.
We're trying to keep people listening. Now they all are on the edge of their seats like we are. See, this was a very difficult podcast for me to come up with a book for, and not because I couldn't think of a sequel that I didn't like better, that I did like better than the first book, but because I frequently like book 2 better than book 1. Like I don't know, probably like 60% of the time, which means I've already talked about multiple books where I like the sequel better. So like we all know that the second Akatar book is the best one. And we all know that Hannah likes Legendary better than Caraval or whatever the last one is, Finale. And I feel like I just talked about the Ballad of Never Ever. That's the
Never
second
After.
one, right? Never After. See those titles, I cannot like say either of them properly, which I also liked better than the first one. I think it's a combination of like sometimes, especially if it's a debut author, they find their groove a little further on. Like their first book might not be their best book. And I like a slow burn romance, and I actually kind of like a bait and switch romance. So often I'm more romantically satisfied by book 2 or 3 than I am by book 1. So,
Okay.
but except for duologies, because I usually like the first book in a duology better. Because people send romance heavy first book, and then it's like politics or something in book 2. This keeps happening to me, and I'm like, I don't care.
This keeps happening to me.
Oh, it's terrible. Anyway, so we have to go way, way, way back in time. Oh, also Vampire Academy gets better as you go because of the romance. So, but we talked about those. I can't talk about them. So we're going back to
As she
little
talks about
Hannah.
them.
I know. I just had to like get it out there to be like, this is why I'm talking about a book that was written in 1977
Perfect. Go
and
for
that
it.
I read as a teenager. And it is Dragon Singer by Anne McCaffrey. Anne McCaffrey was my favorite author when I was younger, partly because my parents loved Anne McCaffrey. So I grew up with all these books with these beautiful dragon covers, and I'm like, I want you to read them. And they were like, not till you're older. So yeah. But the Harper Hall trilogy is her kind of like, it's the young adult, but like back in 1977, they did not have young adult. I wasn't born then, guys. I'm not that old. I just want to throw that out there. But they kind of just like wrote books that were kind of for kids, but they were short, right? Compared to young adult nowadays.
Yeah.
But the characters in it are teenagers. And I think like if she was writing now, she would be writing like big chunky young adult books, but it wasn't a thing. So in book 1, this is this world. It's kind of a science fiction world, but they don't know because they've lost all their technology, and they've got like they can ride dragons, which is sweet. And but they all kind of live in this like feudal fortress kind of things, because there's this stuff called thread that falls out of the sky and consumes all organic life. Like I don't remember, once a month. It's been a while since I read them. So it's bad, right? So you got to live under rocky things, and then the dragons breathe fire, and they like kill the thread, and then people aren't dead. Is how it goes. So she lives in this little fishing village in book 1, and she loves music, and she's not supposed to love music. She's a girl, and it's all just like really kind of harsh. And she runs away and gets, oh, I want to say 7, but it could be 9 little mini dragons. They're like called fire lizards, and they're tiny, and she has like a mental connection with them and feeds them things, and they're adorable. And it is why I have a small dragon in the glass gate, because I was like, I want a tiny dragon since I was 13 or something. But that whole book, like, it's good, but it's like, I like the cozy vibes. And there's a lot of like, her family's terrible, and she's not supposed to have music, and it's all like depressing. But in book 2, which is Dragon Singer, she gets to go to like a music school. So it's like a boarding school, which I think when I was younger, I was like, a boarding school would be sweet, guys. Then I got to high school and I was like, no, that would be terrible. I don't want to stay here. But it's got that whole vibe, and she's still got all her cute like mini dragons to hang out with, and is learning about music and composition. And I was a very musical teenager as well. And it's just the whole time at the school, and there's interpersonal stuff. Like, it's obviously not all perfect, but I just loved the fantasy vibe and being at, this is musical and all the stuff she had with it. So I feel like I'm explaining this badly, but it had a way better setting. And because in that one, she grew a lot and grew in her confidence. So it was like a much more uplifting story than the first one was. And then there's like 15 other books, but those 2 were mostly about her. So I recommend, if you're ever in the mood to read some classic fantasy back in the day, before all this new stuff, and you think it would be cool to have 7 small dragons that can like teleport and communicate with you telepathically, We have to figure out how to feed them all. It's so good. I'm gonna read it to my kids soon. That's my
Aw,
story
that's
about little
adorable.
Hannah.
Also,
Yeah.
that's so cool about the dragons.
I know.
Can you say the title of it again?
Dragon Singer. So it's the Harper Hall trilogy, and it's Dragon Song, Dragon Singer, and Dragon Drums are the three things. Because the Harper Hall is like their musical guild is kind of thing. The Harpers are like the musicians and also the
Mm,
keepers of knowledge and storytelling and history and all that stuff. So it's good times, guys.
that sounds like it. Also, the fact that you have a tiny dragon in your book because of that is
Totally
adorable.
do.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
just like the
cute.
things, like the formative things when you're younger, right? That you're like, this would be the best ever. And I'm still like, yes, it would. Tiny dragon. It's also totally why my tiny dragon portals, because they're supposed to. That's what they do.
I love it. I love that so much. All right, Kay, I'm ready. I'm ready to find out
All
about this
right.
book.
Yes,
Drum roll,
please.
please. No, just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Graceling series.
Oh, wait, I already knew this and I
Yeah.
forgot.
I was going to say I did tell you guys, but
You
whatever.
really did.
So
Oh,
anyway,
that's funny.
this series is really unique because there's book 1 and then book 2 takes place like back in time and not in the same world. It's the same world, but it's like a different country, sort of. I mean, there are different countries in Graceling. That's book 1. And so it's just like it's still in that same like world, as in, you know, it's a secondary world. It's not on Earth, right? So it's still in that same secondary world, but there's like this mountain that separates. Anyway, so it's like these two civilizations don't know anything about each other, okay? And then book 3 takes place years after, kind of like a generation after book 1, Graceling, and it is in that original civilization, I'll say. So it's very unique. I will say most people that I've heard of, I believe the most popular book in the series is book 2, Fire. And it's so good. Okay. It's amazing. Which should surprise you then to hear that is actually my personal least favorite book in the series. My favorite was book 3, ironically, which most people do not like. So I'll
Was
just
that Bitter Blue?
Bitter Blue is book 3.
I read it and I remember being like
Yeah.
it's intense and it's bonkers, but I thought it was brilliant.
Yes, it's so good. It's so fascinating. And like I want to say something, but I feel like it's going to be a spoiler, but just
Cover your
certain
ears.
It's been
certain
out
things.
so long.
Okay, true. I was just going to say, like, if you're a romance reader, yeah, you're not going to be happy without it. But it's so good. Like, there are so many other things about it that are so good that I could not be disappointed. It was definitely my favorite book in the series, but I loved book 1 and I loved book 2, which was my least favorite book. I loved it. I think so. I think I'm pretty sure I gave all of them 5 stars. Although I give a lot of books 5 stars. Come on. Books are awesome. But anyway, so in the second book, it is really cool because in the first book, characters have what is called a grace, and their graces are just kind of like gifts. They're like superpowers. We'll just say superpowers. And if you're a graceling, then you have like your eyes are 2 different colors. So like one eye is one color and the other eye is a different color. And if you're like that, if you have 2 different colored eyes, then you're gonna have a grace. So not everybody has the gifts, but a lot of people do. And it's awesome. But then in the second book, Fire, it's not like that at all. People don't have these like special. There's like this one girl who is a monster. They say that she's a monster, but she's not a monster. She just has like a gift that can make her control things. Anyway, also, another really fascinating way that these books are connected is through the villain. there is kind of the same villain, you could say, in all three books, except for it's very unique the way that the villain is used. And there are other villains too, I would say. But at the core, that villain is the villain for all three books, which is just like, especially if you read book one, you're like, I don't understand. But it's just very cool, okay? It's very well done, and you should read it. One thing that is very cool about Fire, specifically, book two, is the girl, the main character, is just like stunningly beautiful, and everybody loses their minds because she's so beautiful. And it's just really cool because you see how that can be a really negative thing in a lot of cases. And I just loved that idea specifically because when I was in my early 20s, I for sure tried to write a book where the main character was beautiful, but it was like a bad thing, not a good thing. And it was not good. Okay, my book was not good. but I just really loved that, like, to see Kristen Cashore, that's the author, how she took that concept and like really did it well. And it being beautiful is also a good thing too. You know, it serves the main character in positive ways as well, but she also doesn't like to like take advantage of that. The main character is really aware of that and doesn't want to use that against people, I guess. So so that was just like a really fascinating concept, seeing both the good side and the bad side of being beautiful. And, you know, it kind of makes me wish I was that beautiful. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't really. I'm just kidding. but it was just very fascinating how she took that theme of beauty and like really played on it. And if you like intrigue, man, Bitter Blue, that's your book. It's so good, the intrigue in that one. And the mysteries, but it's not like a murder mystery. It's just the mystery of her kingdom and what's going on. You don't know. Anyway, the most exciting thing about this series is there are 2 more books in it, which I haven't read yet because, you know, I read the original series a few years ago. And then I found out there were more books and I was like, yes, I must read these. But you know how it is. I haven't read them yet. So, but I will get to them. I'm really excited about it. I just thought, the way that Kristen Cashore, like her themes and the way that she handled things is so brilliant. So they were really great reads.
Yeah, I remember reading them. I don't remember very much about the books because it's been a bit and I forget many things I read. But I feel like books 1 and book 2 were kind of like more what you would expect from fantasy. Like, if that makes sense. They're like fantasy and they had a romance, from what I remember. And wraps up. I don't know. It was like kind of like I was like, oh yeah, I can see why people like these. This is like, you know, fantasy. And then I read book 3 and I was like, what is happening in this book?
Yeah, it's a lot more political.
So twisty and like, but really good. Like I thought it was, yeah, definitely the best written of the 3. And I was wondering if that's just like her growing as an author, but it was like a way more complex story. But it's been so long that then when the new books came out, I was like, oh yeah, I'll read those sometime. But it's not as immediate because yeah, I read them so long ago now.
Yeah.
I like the new covers though.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love the new covers.
I was wondering if you would, because they're more like, I guess they're pretty abstract, but they're
Artsy.
peoply illustraty kind of things, which you're not always.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not a people cover person, as Hannah
Kay
knows.
likes a stabby sword on a cover.
I do like the new covers a lot. I think they're one of those where the old covers that was in at that time, you know what I mean? And we've passed that time. So those covers now, I'm like, you know, they redid the covers and I was like, yes, this is it. You know, so.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. I'm really curious to hear what you think about the other books when you do end up reading them, because I feel like sometimes those like older books have, I don't know, like they hold like a special place in your heart, you know what I mean? And then when like a new series or new books come out in the same series, but it's like way after, like sometimes it's like hit and miss. So I'm like really curious to hear like
have
Oh,
you read them?
I've read, okay, so no, I haven't read the new ones, no. And I haven't read Fire. I've read
Oh.
Graceling and I read Bitter Blue, but I haven't read
Just
Fire for
skipped
some reason.
fire.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if like my library didn't have the book at that time because I own Graceling and I own Bitter Blue, but for some reason I don't own Fire and I just never read it, which I don't understand why, but whatever. Yeah, so I haven't read the new ones either, obviously. I'm all over the place with this series, but I'm very curious
Well,
to,
they are written like standalones. Like you
yeah.
can read just one. You don't have to read all
Mhm.
three. Although Fire is really good. You should read it. So
Yes, clearly I do. I missed out on a whole completely different civilization,
yeah,
apparently.
I was thinking though about like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That's the only other series I can think of that had like another. That's a
Installment
prequel
later.
to the
Yeah.
Hunger Games series, by the way, for
Mhm.
anyone who doesn't know. That's the only one I can think of that had like another book in the series years later.
I feel like there was at least another one that I was just like, what? But now I can't think of what it is. I'm gonna have to research it and get back to you. But I
Mhm.
remember
Okay.
there was another series that when they announced it, I'm like, why? But
Garth Nix has
why?
been writing new books in his Abhorsen series, and that's been decades since the ones before. I
Hmm,
think sometimes authors are just like, I'm in the mood to go back to this world, I
yeah,
guess.
that's true. Oh yeah, speaking of that, what's his name? The guy that writes Aragon.
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 Oh, yeah.
He's got a new book come out in that series, so that it happens
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah. So the book I'm going to talk about is also fantasy, obviously. I guess I can't say obviously. We read all over the place. So I don't know why I said that. But I have talked about this series on the podcast before because it's one of those things that I wish more people would read because I love it so much. But it is The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. And the second book is The Crown of Embers. And that second book, you guys, I really, really enjoyed the first book, but why would I say without spoiling anything? I feel like the first book, now that I like have read more and stuff, it really reads more like a standalone with like an open ending kind of thing. Like it could have
Mhm.
had more, it could not. But when you read the whole trilogy, you understand it really was never going to be a standalone. It is a series, but the way things happen in that first book, I was like, oh, okay, like where will book two go? Like I don't understand. But then book two just like took on this whole different exciting journey. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. And the angst was just so good. And it also does something in that series that you don't see very often in general in young adult, when it comes to the romance that I was very surprised by when I read it, but very much enjoyed. And the writing is just amazing. I really love Ray Carson's writing in that series. And it is about a girl who has a gemstone in like her belly. So she is like chosen by the gods. And I can't remember if she does have a power or not, or if she's just like worshipped as somebody who has it. And in the beginning of the book, she's very much like not, um, she's not beautiful in the beginning of the book. Not that she's not beautiful, she just lives in this kind of way that she doesn't really take care of herself very well, but then she like goes on this whole journey where she loses weight because she's like on this journey and she kind of discovers who she is, so she gains confidence and it's like all this stuff versus her just being worshipped because she has this thing, and then she kind of like realizes, oh yeah, like I'm actually a cool person like as a person and look at all these things that I can do because I am capable, not just because somebody told me I am, but because I actually am. So it was a really cool way to write that whole like chosen one trope, but in a
Mhm.
way that I really kind of enjoyed and was like, yeah, this is a thing. Like, this is cool, you know? And the romance was really great in the series, and the covers are beautiful. And they got actually new covers for the paperbacks that I don't enjoy quite as much, but that's a different topic altogether. Um, but yeah, I highly recommend that series. I think it's if you like YA fantasy, I think it's very much worth the read, even though it's like a couple years old and stuff. But yeah.
if you want to read an older book that's not from 1977 old.
It's true.
Yeah. I guess all three of ours were kind of old.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, I mean, this was like the age of trilogies, right? It's like when Ray Carson was like, when this trilogy came out, that was like the age of trilogies. Everything was a trilogy during this time. And I remember a lot of times I would read book 2 and I'm just like bored with more, like half of it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, can we just get on to the next part of this quest, adventure, whatever? Because it had that whole, like, the first half of the book would be just the aftershocks of book 1. And I'm like, okay, but like, you gotta do something.
Come on.
Yeah, especially in a trilogy, I feel like book 2 suffers from book 2 syndrome.
Yes. Yeah. But sometimes not. Sometimes you get book 2 and it's amazing and incredible. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this series is so good. And book 2 saved it versus book 1.
Yeah.
Anyway,
nice.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was thinking of other books where I liked book 2. I mean, sorry, other series where I liked book 2 better. And I liked book 2 of the Throne of Glass series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Better than any of the ones that I've read of that series. I haven't finished it. I'm sorry for everyone who loves it. It's still amazing. I just can't read books that long. I'm sorry. But Crown of Midnight wasn't that long, so I got through it and I really liked it.
I will say that is my
yourself
favorite
and split
too.
them in half or something.
Yeah.
Feel like I'm just gonna have this book. She does do that.
Yeah, she'll split up and halfway through like a big book, she's like, I'm gonna go read something else, and then she'll just come back to it like it's a new book.
That's what I've been having to do. I've been reading Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, and those books are like the size of 4 books, and they're also split into sections with like little like short story interludes in between the sections. So I read one of them while I was in Chile, like one of the sections, and then I kept like forgetting that I had not finished a book. So I still had like a lot more book left, because in my brain I was like, that was a good book. I read that one, and I'm like, no, you read a quarter of it. You have to read the rest of the book.
That's great. So speaking of what you're reading, what are you reading next?
Next, and by the way, I'm reading like 4 books right now. That's just one of them.
As
That's
normal,
how it goes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Next I am reading, and still reading Brandon Sanderson, because this is gonna be like a 6-month project, I think. Wolf Untamed by Valia Lind. And I get to read it, and none of the rest of you get to read it because I'm beta reading it. So it is her second book in her White Wolf saga, which is all, angst and action and werewolves and alphas and romance and getting injured and patching each other up and all the things that go along with that. It's funny because right now you're writing something super cozy, and this is like the opposite. Hey, they don't get to be cozy. They're like running through the forest with like knife wounds.
Basically, yeah.
I love shoving each other getting injured and patching each other up. That's like one of my favorites.
I know, it's so good. It's so good.
I'm almost positive that happened at least 3 times in Wolf Untamed. At least 3 times. If not, I deleted one. So maybe 2 times. But still. I was like, let's do this again.
Like my last book, when I like realized I was writing in my like 3rd or 4th dance scene, and I was like, oh my goodness. I left them all in though. Sometimes a book just has a mood, and the mood just keeps going.
This is true. Kay, what are you reading next?
Well, speaking of the fixing each other up after being injured. Well, okay, so I'm reading The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, and I actually only just barely started it. So I've only read like 3 chapters or something. I don't know how many chapters, but anyway, this guy's injured and she's, fixing him up. And he's for sure the love interest. We'll just put it that way. That's all I know. I don't know anything else.
That's all I know.
It's good stuff.
I'm interested to hear what you think of that one, because I keep looking at it because people keep talking about it, but the cover is one of those pretty color covers that tells me nothing. Therefore, I cannot remember it. I know you like those covers, but doesn't tell you anything. I like it. That's my problem with covers like that.
I don't like knowing anything. I don't even read book descriptions for books before. I don't read reviews. I don't read the book description. I don't want to know anything, okay? I like discovering it as the author intended, you know?
I just forget books
just like
if I
it that way.
don't know what they're about. As the author intended.
Wow.
Blindly.
Or as Valia writes, discovering with
Blindly.
everything.
I know. I love it when readers like will contact you and be like, what's gonna happen next with this? And I'm sure you've got it all planned, or like, and you're like, no, I don't know.
No,
I'm finding out
definitely.
as you do. She's like, are these
We're in
characters
this
gonna be in this
together.
book? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't finished writing it. It's a mystery.
I love it. I love it. Hannah, I'm reading next Heartbeats and Roses by Jay Dawson. Are you
Yes,
excited?
you are.
I just
I am
started it.
excited. I'm only excited if you like it. If you don't like it, don't tell me.
Okay, cool.
You already
and
read book 1 and liked it though, right?
yes, I did. I very much enjoyed it. So I feel like I'm just gonna enjoy this one as well because I have been reading the Foxglove King. I can never say it by Hannah
Mhm.
Witten, but my brain is not wired for fantasy at the moment, so I had to take a break from that. And yeah, I'm back to romance because that
Back
is
to
where I live
romance.
apparently.
Me
Anyway,
and Valia have been reading a lot of romance the past couple of
yes,
months.
we have. Hey, you know what? It's all my brain wants right now, and it digested so well, and I am here for it. It's been a really long time since I've actually just been like on a huge romance kick, and I'm okay with this.
That's true.
So,
You deserve it.
thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, on that note,
On that note.
that would be all for us. If you guys have read any of these books, let us know. If you have a book where you enjoyed, or a series where you enjoyed book 2 or 3 better than the first, let us know. Very curious to hear about that. And yeah, that's all. What else do I say at this? Oh yeah, before you go, please leave us a star rating or review. Those help. And then also follow us on your favorite podcast platform, as well as on Instagram at Reading Queens Pod and on Facebook at Reading Queens Pod, because we're easy to find. We want to talk to you. We want to have these bookish conversations. So please come share your book recommendations with us. Maybe one day they'll make it on a podcast and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I recommended that book. And I'm like, maybe you did. Anyway, yeah, be back next Wednesday for more chaotic fun and bookish fun. And that is all. Okay, bye.